I kissed him at the company holiday party while my husband was home putting our daughter to bed. That's the sentence I've been avoiding for 6 months. I've tried softer versions. Things got complicated. We got too close. It just happened. But that's garbage. It didn't just happen. I chose it. I wanted it. And I told myself I deserved it. His name was Marcus. He worked in the design department, 3 floors up from my cubicle in accounting. Dark hair, sharp jaw, the kind of smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He transferred from the London office 6 months earlier, and every woman in the building noticed, including me. I noticed everything about him. The way he rolled his sleeves up during presentations. How he remembered everyone's coffee order. The British accent that made even mundane comments sound charming. I told myself it was harmless. Just noticing. Just appreciating. My husband Jake and I had been together since college. Married for 8 years. We had Emma, who was 5, and a mortgage, and a minivan with Cheerios ground into the seats. We were solid. Boring solid. Safe solid. Dead solid. That's what I told myself anyway. That our marriage had flatlined somewhere between the diaper years and the preschool fundraisers. That Jake had stopped seeing me as a woman and started seeing me as a mom, a roommate, a person who reminded him to schedule the oil change. We had sex maybe once a month, always at night, always in the dark, always the same. He'd fall asleep after and I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, feeling invisible. Marcus made me feel visible again. It started small. He'd stop by my desk to ask about quarterly reports. We'd end up talking for 20 minutes about nothing, laughing, leaning in. He complimented my new haircut, said I had great taste in music when he saw my Spotify playlist, asked if I wanted to grab lunch with a group from his department. I said yes. Of course I said yes. The group lunches turned into justice lunches. Coffee runs that lasted an hour. Late nights at the office when we'd both claimed to be swamped but really we were just talking, sharing, connecting in ways I hadn't connected with anyone in years. He told me about his divorce, how his ex-wife had been cold, critical, how he'd felt trapped. I told him about Jake, how I felt taken for granted, how I'd become this beige person living a buyer life. He said I was radiant. That Jake was an idiot not to see how special I was. I should have stopped there. I should have recognized what was happening and shut it down. Gone home and had an honest conversation with my husband. Suggested counseling. Tried. But I didn't want to try. I wanted to feel wanted. I wanted someone to look at me the way Marcus looked at me, like I was fascinating and beautiful and worth pursuing. I wanted to feel the stomach-flipping electricity of being desired by someone new. So when he texted me about the holiday party, asking if I was going, I said yes without thinking. Jake usually came to these things, but Emma had a cough and he volunteered to stay home. I could have stayed too. Should have. But I told him I needed to make an appearance for work. That my boss would notice if I wasn't there. I spent 2 hours getting ready. Wore the dress Jake bought me for our anniversary that I'd never worn because it felt too nice for our life. Red, fitted, the kind of dress that made me remember I had a body under the mom jeans and oversized sweaters. I did my makeup carefully. Perfume. Heels that hurt but looked good. I looked in the mirror before I left and barely recognized myself. Jake was on the couch with Emma, reading her a bedtime story. He looked up when I walked in and his face did something I hadn't seen in years. Surprise. Attraction. Like he was remembering who I used to be. Wow, he said. You look incredible. Thanks, I said, not meeting his eyes. I should get going. Text me when you're on your way home, he said. Drive safe. He kissed my forehead. I let him. Then I walked out the door toward the worst decision of my life. The party was at some upscale bar downtown, the kind with exposed brick and craft cocktails that cost $18. The office had rented out the back room. There were twinkle lights and a jazz trio and an open bar that people were taking full advantage of. I found my work friends immediately. The women from accounting who I ate lunch with had complained about deadlines with. We grabbed drinks and gossiped about who was wearing what and whether the rumors about layoffs were true. But I was scanning the room for Marcus. I found him by the bar, talking to someone from marketing. He was wearing a navy suit that fit perfectly. No tie, top button undone. When he saw me he smiled, excused himself, and walked over. You came, he said. I came, I said. You look. He trailed off, his eyes moving over me in a way that made my skin feel electric. That dress should be illegal. I laughed. Too loud, too eager. You clean up pretty well yourself. We got drinks, talked, drifted away from the crowd to a quieter corner. The music was loud enough that we had to lean close to hear each other. His hand found the small of my back at some point. I didn't move away. I should have moved away. We talked about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Manchester. I told him about my college years, the version of myself who'd been adventurous and spontaneous before life made me practical. We laughed. We drank more. The room got warmer, or maybe that was just me. "I think about you a lot," he said at some point. The words were quiet, but they cut through everything else. Probably more than I should. My heart was humming. "Marcus, I know," he said. "I know you're married. I know this is complicated. But I can't stop thinking about what it would be like to kiss you." I could have said no. I could have walked away. I could have remembered Jake at home with our daughter, reading her goodnight moon for the 1000th time, being a good father and a good husband who didn't deserve this. Instead I said, "Then why don't you?" He kissed me. Right there in the corner of the bar where anyone could see. His hand cupped my face and his lips were soft and urgent and tasted like whiskey. I kissed him back. Wrapped my fingers in his shirt. Let myself sink into it like drowning, like falling, like flying. When we broke apart I was breathless and dizzy and terrified and alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. "Come home with me," he whispered. And I said yes. I didn't go home with him that night. At the last second, standing in the parking lot with his hand in mine and his car 20 feet away, reality crashed through the whiskey haze like cold water. I saw Emma's face, Jake kissing my forehead. The life I'd built that suddenly felt fragile as glass. "I can't," I said. "I'm sorry. I can't." Marcus squeezed my hand. "It's okay. We don't have to rush this. Rush this. Like there was this to rush. Like we were starting something instead of me destroying everything." I drove home shaking. Cried in the driveway for 10 minutes before going inside. Jake was asleep on the couch, Emma curled against his chest, both of them peacefully and trusting and completely unaware that I'd just blown our lives apart. I should have confessed right then. Woken him up and told him everything. But I told myself it was just a kiss. A mistake. Something I could bury and forget and never let happen again. That lasted 4 days. Marcus texted me the next morning. "Thinking about you. No regrets here." Then a photo of his coffee cup next to mine from our last lunch, like we were a couple with inside jokes and a future. I should have blocked his number. Instead I wrote back, "Me too." The texts became constant. Good morning messages. Memes that made me laugh. Late-night conversations that stretched past midnight while Jake snored beside me. Marcus was witty and attentive and made me feel like the most interesting person alive. He asked about my day, remembered details, sent me songs he thought I'd like. Jake asked what I wanted for dinner and if I remembered to pay the electric bill. I started comparing them. Keeping score. Jake left his socks on the floor, but Marcus probably folded his laundry with hospital corners. Jake fell asleep during movies, but Marcus would probably discuss the cinematography after. Jake had stopped trying, but Marcus was pursuing me like I was worth the effort. It was so easy to rewrite our marriage in my head. To focus on every small annoyance and forget every good moment. The way Jake still made me see exactly how I liked it. How he'd taken Nemi to our swim lessons every Saturday for 2 years without complaining. The time I had food poisoning and he'd sat on the bathroom floor with me all night, rubbing my back and bringing me water. I erased all of it. Made him the villain so I could be the victim who deserved better. The second time I kissed Marcus was in his apartment. I told Jake I was meeting my friend Sarah for drinks. Sarah, who I hadn't actually talked to in months because I'd been too busy drowning in my own life to maintain friendships. I texted her later asking her to cover for me if Jake asked. She wrote back 3 question marks. I didn't explain. Marcus's place was sleek and minimal, the kind of bachelor pad that screamed money and no kids. Leather couch. Abstract art. A kitchen that had never seen a chicken nugget. We had wine. Talked. And then we weren't talking anymore. We had sex on his couch. Then his bed. Then again in the morning before I had to rush home and shower and pretend to Jake that I'd been at Sarah's watching Netflix and drinking too much Prosecco. "You look happy," Jake said when I came downstairs. Anna was eating pancakes shaped like dinosaurs that he'd made from scratch. "Good night with Sarah?" "Yeah," I said. "The light tasted like ash. Really good." He smiled. "I'm glad. You needed that." The affair became my second life. I was 2 people now. Daytimey, going through the motions with Jake and Emma, packing lunches and folding laundry and pretending everything was fine. And nighttimey, sneaking out for work events and girls' nights to spend hours with Marcus, feeling alive and desired and like I was finally living instead of just existing. I justified it constantly. Told myself Jake and I were basically roommates anyway. That we'd grown apart naturally and I was just acknowledging it first. That Emma was young enough that she wouldn't remember if we split up. That I deserved happiness too, didn't I? Wasn't I allowed to want more than beige suburban mediocrity? Marcus talked about the future, about his traveling together once I left Jake. Weekend trips to Paris and Barcelona. About how good Emma would like him once she got to know him. How we could build something real, something passionate, something better than the dead marriages we'd both been stuck in. I let myself believe him. Started planning my exit. Mentally divided up the furniture. Imagined the conversation where I tell Jake it was over. Pictured my new life with Marcus, full of wine and art galleries and sex that made me feel wanted. I was an idiot. It fell apart on a Tuesday. Jake came home early from work. I was supposed to be at yoga. I told him I joined a class to get back in shape, work on myself. Really, I was at Marcus's apartment, in his bed, his hands in my hair and his mouth on my neck. My phone rang. Jake's name flashed on the screen. I ignored it. It rang again. And again. You should answer that, Marcus said, pulling back. I called Jake back. Tried to sound breezy and post-workout. Hey, what's up? Where are you? His voice was weird. Flat. Yoga. I told you. No, you're not. My blood went cold. What? I'm at the yoga studio. I wanted to surprise you. Maybe grab dinner after. The girl at the desk said you've never been here. Said they don't have anyone registered under your name. I couldn't breathe. The room tilted. Jake, I can explain. Where are you? I looked at Marcus. He was already getting dressed, face closed off, the fantasy evaporating in real time. I'm with a friend, I said. I can explain when I get home. Is it a man? Jake asked. His voice cracked. Just tell me. Are you with another man? The silence stretched too long. Get out, Jake said. Get out of my house. I'll pack your things. Get Emma from daycare and take her to my mom's. When I get home, I want you gone. Jake, please, let me explain. He hung up. I sat there holding my dead phone, wearing another man's t-shirt, smelling like his cologne and my own stupidity. Marcus was across the room, hands in his pockets, looking anywhere but at me. I should go, I said. Yeah, he said. You should. Not stay here. Not we'll figure this out. Not I'll fight for us. Just a polite agreement that I should leave. Because this had been fun for him. An ego boost. A distraction from his own loneliness. But he'd never planned to actually build a life with someone else's wife. I drove home in a daze. Threw up twice on the shoulder of the highway. Pulled into my driveway and sat there until the neighbors probably thought I died. Jake's truck was there. So was his mother's car. I walked in. My suitcases were by the door, packed. Jake was at the kitchen table. His eyes were red. His mother was in the living room with Emma, who was watching cartoons and eating crackers, oblivious. How long? Jake asked. 2 months, I whispered. He flinched like I'd hit him. Who is he? Someone from work. Do you love him? The question destroyed me. Because the answer was no. I didn't love Marcus. I'd been in love with the version of myself I got to be with him. The exciting one. The desired one. The one who got to pretend she wasn't a wife and mother drowning in routine. No, I said. Then why? His voice broke completely. Why would you destroy us for someone you don't even love? I had no answer. Nothing that wouldn't sound exactly as selfish and pathetic as it was. I want you out, Jake said. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. We'll figure out custody. But I don't want you here. I can't look at you. Jake, please. We can work on this. Counseling, whatever you need. You don't get to fix this, he said. You broke it. You burned it down. And for what? For what? His mother came into the kitchen. Emma's asking for you, she said to Jake, not looking at me. She wants her bedtime story. Jake stood, walked past me like I was invisible. I heard him go upstairs with Emma, heard her sweet voice asking why Mommy's suitcases were by the door. You should leave, Jake's mother said quietly. She'd always liked me. Had thrown me a baby shower, welcomed me into the family, treated me like a daughter. Now she looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. Before Emma sees, I grabbed my suitcases and left. Drove to a motel off the highway. Sat on a bed that smelled like bleach and old cigarettes and realized I'd traded my family for this. Marcus texted me that night. You okay? I stared at those 2 words. The absolute inadequacy of them. I blocked his number. The divorce took 6 months. The destruction of my entire life took about 6 weeks. Jake filed immediately. I didn't contest anything because what was I going to say? I'd cheated, lied, betrayed him in every way that mattered. His lawyer was efficient and brutal. I got every other weekend with Emma, Wednesday dinners, and half the holidays. He got the house, primary custody, and the moral high ground. I got a 1-bedroom apartment that echoed with my own mistakes. The first weekend I had Emma, she cried for 2 hours straight. Wanted her daddy. Wanted her room. Wanted to go home. She was 6 years old and her entire world had imploded and she didn't understand why mommy lived in a sad beige box instead of their house with the swinging set and her toys. "Why don't you live with us anymore?" she asked, face blotchy and wet. "Mommy and daddy need some time apart," I said, the script every divorced parent uses. The lie that kids see right through. "Is it because of me?" she whispered. That broke something in me that's never healed. "No, baby. No. This is mommy's fault. All of it." She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. That seed of doubt, of damage, that would grow into therapy sessions and trust issues and relationship problems decades from now. I'd planted it. Me. Work became impossible. The affair with Marcus had been the worst-kept secret in the office. People had seen us at lunch, noticed the long conversations, put together the timeline. When I came back after Jake kicked me out, the whispers followed me everywhere. Someone had scrawled home record on my desk in permanent marker. HR made them clean it, but everyone knew. The women from accounting stopped inviting me to lunch. People avoided the break room when I was there. I'd get on the elevator and watch people's faces close off, conversations dying mid-sentence. Marcus transferred back to London 3 weeks after Jake found out. Didn't tell me he was leaving. I found out from an email blast about departmental changes. He was just gone, back to his real life, while I drowned in the wreckage of mine. I tried to explain to my friends what happened. The real ones, the college friends who'd been at my wedding, who'd thrown me a baby shower. I wanted them to understand that I'd been unhappy, that Jake and I had been dying slowly, that I'd felt invisible and unappreciated and desperate to feel alive again. Sarah, my supposed best friend, listened to my entire explanation at coffee. Then she said, "So you were bored. And instead of talking to your husband about it like an adult, you screwed someone from work and blew up your kid's life. It wasn't just boredom." "Yes, it was," she said. "You weren't being abused. Jake wasn't cheating. He was being a normal husband with a normal job raising a normal kid. And you decided that wasn't exciting enough for you. So you torpedoed it." She left money for her coffee and walked out. Blocked my number that night. The other friends followed like dominoes. They chose Jake, who'd done nothing wrong, who'd been blindsided and humiliated. They chose their own marriages, their own families, protecting themselves from whatever sickness I had that made me think I deserved more than what I had. I became radioactive. My parents found out through Jake's mother. Mom called me crying, asking what I'd done, how I could do this to my family. Dad didn't call at all. Just sent a text, "Very disappointed in you." When I finally got them on the phone, I tried to explain. Told them about feeling trapped and invisible and how Marcus had made me feel seen. "So you threw away your marriage because someone paid attention to you?" Mom said. "Do you know how many times I've been frustrated with your father? How many times marriage is boring and hard and not some fairy tale? You don't just quit because it gets difficult. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," she said. "You're selfish. You wanted the excitement without any of the work. And now Anna pays the price." They stopped inviting me to family dinners. Stopped calling to chat. When I'd visit, the conversations were stiff and painful, everyone treading around the elephant in the room. My younger sister got engaged that fall. She didn't ask me to be a bridesmaid. Said it would be too awkward having me in the wedding party after what I'd done. I watched her change in real time. She became quieter, clingy when she was with me, like she was afraid I'd disappear. She started having nightmares, wetting the bed again after years of being dry. Her teacher called Jake concerned about her behavior at school, how she'd stopped playing with friends and spent recess alone. Jake sent me the therapy bills. I paid them. It was the least I could do. The custody exchanges were torture. Jake would pull up, face blank, and Emma would run to him like she was being rescued from a prison. Sometimes his girlfriend would be in the car. Ashley. She was younger than me, prettier, a kindergarten teacher who was perfect with Emma, who didn't carry the stench of betrayal, who got to play house with my family while I watched from the outside. I tried dating, downloaded the apps, met men for drinks who'd ghost after I told them I was divorced with a kid, or worse, the ones who'd stick around until they heard the story. Until they realized I was the villain, not the victim. That I'd been the cheater, not the cheated on. "So you're one of those," one guy said. Second date, after I'd finally explained why I only had Emma every other weekend. "One of what?" "The ones who get bored and blow up their lives. Then act surprised when there are consequences." He left me with a check. I stopped dating. Stopped trying to explain myself. Stopped trying to make anyone understand that I hadn't meant to hurt anyone, that I just wanted to feel wanted, that it had spiraled out of control. Because those were excuses. And excuses didn't undo anything. Work fired me eventually. Called it restructuring, but everyone knew. They'd kept me just long enough to avoid a lawsuit, then cut me loose. I found another job in a different company, lower pay, where nobody knew me. Where I could be anonymous and eat lunch alone and go home to my empty apartment. Emma started calling Ashley Miss Ashley with its brightness and her voice that guided me every time. Started talking about fun things they did together. Baking cookies. Trip to the zoo. Movie nights. All the things I used to do with her, that Ashley got to do now because I'd torched my own life. Miss Ashley braided my hair for school pictures, Emma said one Wednesday dinner, showing me. The braids were perfect. Better than I'd ever managed. "That's great, baby," I said, choking on the words. "She's really nice," Emma said. Daddy smiles more now. That was the moment I understood the full scope of what I'd done. I hadn't just destroyed my marriage. I destroyed my place in my daughter's life. She was building a new family, one where I was a visiting obligation instead of a parent. Where someone else got to be the mom who mattered. Jake married Ashley 2 years after our divorce was final. Emma was the flower girl. Wore a white dress and carried roses and beamed in every photo Jake's mother posted on Facebook. I wasn't invited, obviously. I looked at those photos alone in my apartment on what should have been my 10th wedding anniversary with Jake. Looked at my daughter's happy face, at Jake's smile, at the life they were building without me. I thought about Marcus sometimes. Wondered if he ever thought about me. Probably not. He'd moved on instantly, back to his life, unscathed. While I was still here, living in the blast radius, people at my new job started to befriend me eventually. Invited me to happy hours. Asked about my life. I told them I was divorced. Had a daughter. Kept it vague. But word got around somehow. Someone knew someone who knew someone from my old company. And the whispers started again. The invitations stopped coming. I sat in my apartment most nights now. Scroll through old photos on my phone. Pictures of Jake and Emma and me before I destroyed us. We looked happy. We looked like a family. We looked like everything I'd thrown away because I'd been bored and flattered and so catastrophically stupid. Emma turned 9 last month. She's started asking to skip some of our weekends. Has sleepovers with friends, birthday parties, things that conflict with our custom time. Jake lets her choose. She's choosing less and less to come. "It's nothing personal, Mom," she said last week. Mature beyond her years in that way kids of divorce become. "I just have a lot going on." "I understand," I said. But I didn't. Or I did, and that was worse. I understood that I was becoming optional. That the natural consequence of breaking a family was losing your place in it. That children forgave but they didn't forget, and they built their lives around the people who stayed, not the ones who left. I went to Jake's house last week to pick up Emma's winter coat she'd forgotten. Ashley answered the door, pregnant. Glowing. Jake appeared behind her, hand on her shoulder, protective and proud. "Congratulations," I said. Meant it. Hated myself for meaning it. "Thanks," Jake said. His voice was polite. Distant. The voice you use with acquaintances, not someone you'd once promised forever to. Emma will have a sibling. A half-sibling will grow up in the intact family I shattered. Who'll have both parents under one roof. Who'll be the center of attention while Emma is the weekend visitor from the previous marriage. I did that. I created that hierarchy. That damage. I see a therapist now. She's patient and professional and keeps asking me to forgive myself. To understand that people make mistakes, that I was human, that I can rebuild. But I don't want to forgive myself. Forgiveness feels like permission. Like saying it's okay that I burned down my family because I was flattered by a man in a nice suit. That it's okay I damaged my daughter because I wanted to feel desired. That it's okay I threw away a good man because good wasn't exciting enough. It's not okay. It will never be okay. Sometimes I imagine an alternate timeline. One where I'd shut Marcus down at that first lunch. Where I'd gone home to Jake and said I was struggling, that I needed us to reconnect, that I was scared we were drifting apart. Where we'd worked on it like adults. Gone to counseling. Remembered why we'd fallen in love in college. Made it through the rough patch that every long marriage hits. In that timeline, Emma doesn't have anxiety. Jake doesn't look at me like I'm a stranger. I'm not spending holidays alone. I'm not the cautionary tale people whisper about at parties. But that's not this timeline. This is the one where I made my choices and now I live with them. Where every other weekend I get to pretend I'm a mother, and the rest of the time I'm just a woman who destroyed the only thing that mattered for something that never mattered at all. People ask sometimes if I regret it. If I'd do it differently, if I could go back. I regret it every single day. Every single moment. But a regret doesn't rebuild what you've burned. Last week Emma called me by my first name instead of mom. Caught herself. Apologized. But I heard it. That slap. That distance. I'm losing her. Inch by inch. Weekend by weekend. And I have no one to blame but the woman in the mirror who thought she deserved more than everything. I'm 36 now. I have a daughter who tolerates me, an ex-husband who's built the life I threw away, and an apartment full of silence that echoes with everything I destroyed. And the worst part? I did it to myself. All of it. Every single piece. The affair lasted 2 months. The consequences will last forever.